morning. Welcome to the Weather Desk on this Thursday, a very soggy Thursday for Hampton Roads. We started off with widespread excessive rainfall. We had flash flood warnings out. At one point, 4 of our major cities, roughly accounting for 900 and almost 89,000 people under the flood warnings, at least the cities. Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach, all of those cities under warning earlier. We'll talk about who's still under warning at this point as we go forward. We still have the threat of excessive rainfall for parts of the region, especially into North Carolina. We're going to talk a lot about that. I've got a storm recap, and we've got some really wild video to share with you a little bit later on from some of the storms that came through over the last 24 to 36 hours. I also have the outlook. We'll look ahead, let you know things are going to be improving for some areas, but there are still a few trouble spots. Speaking of trouble spots, Bertha doing its thing down along the Gulf Coast right now. That system, the center of circulation, kind of straddling land in southern Louisiana. I'll also update you on Fausto, and Fausto pressing a little closer to Hawaii than previously the models were suggesting. So I've got an update on that. I also have an update on the U.S. drought monitor I'll be sharing a little later in the show as well. In addition, Hampton Roads weekend and extended outlooks. If you like the cooler weather, we're in for that for a little while, but we do have a little warm up coming. We'll talk about that and our rain chances as we look out over the next couple of weeks. Let's take a look at the rain that's been falling across Hampton Roads. You see this cruise ship. That's the Carnival Sunshine Inn right now, and as they are in port, they're thinking, what happened to the sunshine? Nothing but rain right now across most of the region. Things will be breaking up a little bit, especially farther to the north later on, but we need to talk about this possibility of heavy rain continuing through the day today, mainly for North Carolina. There will still be some showers occasionally, Southside Hampton Roads and areas a little farther north of the state line, maybe a stray storm or two, can't rule that out, but the concentration with the heaviest potential for that excessive rainfall down into North Carolina, you definitely want to be mindful of the fact you may run into some standing water. We've already seen it this morning on some of the roads. We never want anybody to try to cross flooded roadways or wade into floodwaters either. The advice is always turn around, go another path, or simply put, turn around, don't drown, don't take any chances. Now, when we take a look at the severe storm risk, remember we had the concerns Wednesday, and then early this morning there was still a concern we could see some gusty winds. That was moderate when I came in. We had a low risk of an isolated tornado as well. What I have since done is lowered the risk now of those wind gusts. We really don't have any kind of outlook for severe weather for our immediate area. The tornadic threat is gone, but we still have that risk, a moderate threat of additional flooding. Take a look at measured precipitation this morning. This is not radar estimate. This is measured precip. I'm going to show you some of the radar estimates a little bit later. But you can see at Norfolk International since midnight, 2.42 inches, 2.5 inches in Chesapeake, over 2 inches at Oceana. Down to the south, Currituck, Elizabeth City finally catching up now, starting to see some of those higher amounts showing up down that way as the heavier rain is focusing down to the south. We still have that third level where there is that excessive rainfall potential and essentially very likely to our south. That includes southern parts of Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and Suffolk on down through northeast North Carolina. So that's the area we're most concerned with. And the flood watch, when I came in early this morning, we still had Northampton and the peninsula under the flood watch. That was taken down during our daybreak live broadcast around 6 o'clock this morning. It continues, though, still south side, and then the main area of concern, northeast North Carolina. Now, as we take a look at the satellite, the radar images, the reason we've seen a real focus here, we have this frontal boundary pushing down into our region, and a little wave of low pressures developed along that front. That's kind of enhancing some of the lift and really tapping into all of this deep moisture that's been across our region. High pressures building to the north. Look at the sunshine set across the Great Lakes region back towards Missouri. A little bit of cloud cover, but things generally looking pretty good. Down to the south, I'll talk a lot more about Bertha coming up in just a little bit. But right now, we're going to focus on the rain that we've been dealing with and the fact that we've got the rain across the area. You see some of those heavier areas of rain, and it looks like they just took out that flood warning that was just out to our west over parts of much of southern Hertford County. That was set to expire at 9:15. They discontinued it a little bit earlier. Still, we do have some advisories and flood warnings out around Raleigh, so heavier rain still out that way. And the main thing is that all of this has been moving from west to east and just a little bit north of due east, and that's where we've had essentially kind of a training effect where we've had heavy cell after heavy cell after heavy cell kind of coming across the same areas. That's what set up that flooding issue. Again, we had a warning for southern Hertford County. That's no longer in place. So the nearest one is out there in the Raleigh area, and you can see those areas dealing with it. That's outside of our immediate 13 News Now viewing area, but there's still some more heavy rain set to push towards the Albemarle Sound a little bit later this morning. So we're not out of the woods yet, and light to moderate rain still across Chesapeake and Suffolk. Now, as we take a look at this radar, I want to take us out now to Jordy Clark. She's been out in our 13 News Now interceptor, and you can see that rain that has been off and on all morning across Hampton Roads. This video was shot earlier with our interceptor showing the rain, the flooding, and the standing water along the roadways. Jordy, you've been out there tracking conditions all morning, and you join us now live. Let's talk about where you are and some of the conditions you've been seeing now that the sun's up.
Yeah, good morning, Craig. So we are currently on our way back from Moyock. We are on the Chesapeake Expressway, I believe, back to check in on Chesapeake in that area because we primarily saw Norfolk this morning, Virginia Beach, areas of Pongo, Sandbridge, and even Moyock, of course, where we are seeing that significant rain. I'm actually going to turn around just so you can see it's certainly starting to come down this morning. So being careful if you are going over those bridges like we are right now, actually. I know Marta was super busy this morning as well when it came to just those traffic impacts, of course, but getting a look at the road conditions, of course, that's where we're seeing a lot of that rain, Craig, that is picking up throughout the morning. We've seen this. We've seen a lot of kind of those lower lying areas that were certainly flooded, especially off to the side, and many cars having to navigate that. So, you know, definitely if you need to leave this morning for anything, just give yourself a few extra minutes because you definitely want to slow it down if you have to go through those areas. And of course, when you see those large, significant standing water, and if you are not familiar with that area, it's just better to turn around and reroute yourself. But again, throughout the area, most of the story this morning has just been those rut roads, the puddling, water sitting in some of those lower areas. And so, you know, traffic is moving along this morning. It's 9 o'clock. People are on their way to work or wherever they have to go, but drivers definitely want to just give themselves some extra space, of course, because these roads are certainly slick this morning. We've certainly had to kind of slow down too a bit, honestly, just to navigate some of these areas. So certainly continuing to watch for those heavier pockets of rain because, again, Craig, like you've been mentioning, that, you know, it's not exactly quite done just yet. A lot of this is just from all of last night and then the steady-ish rain this morning. And of course, further south is when we really started to see that rain pick up. So, you know, as we are heading back to Chesapeake, certainly interested just to see, you know, how many of those other areas that we will see that will have those impacts, especially the neighborhoods as well, because that's where we saw some of that standing water earlier in daybreak this morning, those really big piles of water that people might think that they're okay with navigating, but if you're not familiar, it's probably just to be safe. Reroute yourself, turn around, don't drown. We say that all the time, but we really mean it, again, certainly.
Yeah. Solid advice. Jordy, thank you so much for your reports out there this morning. We do appreciate that. One of the areas that Jordy saw some of the standing water was around Sandbridge, and you could see some of the heavy rain that was out there right along the coast in Virginia Beach. We've seen standing water collected on some of the roadways around 264. Take a look at some of these areas now shaded in these oranges and reds. We have some areas by radar radar estimation where we've had 4 to 5 inches of rain. And again, this heavy rain in a pretty large area from Virginia Beach down through Chesapeake, southern parts of Suffolk, back down into Gates County, and then you get into Hertford County. This is the area that was also under flash flood warning earlier. You could see very intense rainfall, just by estimate 4.7, some areas in excess of 5.5 inches of rain. You'll notice it's not as great right here yet, but some of that heavier rain just pushing into these areas from Elizabeth City back over towards Poplar Branch and the Outer Banks. So your rainfall totals will be going up. Now, some areas handle heavy rain like this better than others. Obviously, if you're right along the Outer Banks or you live along the edge of the Albemarle Sound, that heavy rain just runs right into those larger bodies of water, the Currituck Sound, for instance. But some areas are really poor drainage, and some of the areas around Sandbridge back over towards Back Bay, they can back up pretty quickly. You can have standing water, and we just want folks to stay mindful that these conditions can change rapidly as you're driving. Now, when you look out here just south of Greensboro, again, multiple warnings out in this area, back towards Raleigh as well. You look at some of the radar rainfall estimates, over 8 inches. So tremendous amounts of rain out there, 7.2 just south of Thomasville, and some of these totals continue to go up. So again, this rain, no joke. We knew it was going to be heavy, and we have seen that right now. A lot of lightning showing up just south of Kill Devil Hills, about 74 strikes. The good news through all of this, while we have been dealing with the rain, we haven't seen any severe weather, no tornadoes, no gusty, damaging winds. So just a lot of heavy rain as our big troublemaker. Knott's Island, you're getting a little bit of a break, more rain set for you. Moyock seeing the rain, and we just saw Jordy and the Interceptor coming up through Chesapeake. There's more heavy rain down south of the Albemarle, and this is going to push towards the Outer Banks. If you are around the Outer Banks, I know you're in it right now at Nags Head and down to Kill Devil Hills, some of the areas down around Manio. There is more to come as farther to the west, those areas impacting central parts of North Carolina, that is going to fill in later. So this is the area that has that greatest concern for continued excessive amounts of rain as this works off to the east as well. We'll be watching all of that. All right, now as far as rainfall goes and the excessive rainfall, we are going to be watching again. We had that chance today for Friday. Still chances down to the south. It's more moderate as opposed to very likely. There's still a possibility along the southeast coast, and we could see some more kind of flooding popping up back into the central U.S. All right, we're going to take a short break. Coming up, from flooding to tornado damage, we're tracking the impacts of severe weather across the country. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. We've certainly seen a lot of rain here, but you'll notice other parts of the country also dealing with flooding, damaging winds, and tornadoes after a round of storms Tuesday and Wednesday. Take a look at this drone video. This is of Buchanan, West Virginia. So you take a look here, flash flooding in the area, inundated roadways, leaving cars partially submerged. You can see the floodwaters bringing in heavy amounts of mud. This video also from the same area showing water levels at a gas station. You can see the water touching the bottom of the gas pump, so a lot of flooding there. And about an hour south in Fayetteville, heavy rains caused a car to fall into a sinkhole. A reminder, you should never drive in flooded roadways. Remember, if that water is moving, it takes just 12 inches of rushing water to move most cars, in just a couple feet can carry away smaller SUVs and smaller trucks as well. So you don't want to mess with any of that. All right, this is an update to a story we told you about yesterday here on the Weather Desk. The National Weather Service has confirmed a tornado made landfall in New York on Tuesday. The Weather Service says the tornado started right around 4:10 in Purchase and traveled about 1.5 to 2 miles until it finished in Rybrook about 7 minutes later. The tornado had an estimated peak wind of 85 miles per hour. It wasn't that big, only about 40 yards in width, but did its damage. People in Grayson, Kentucky, and that's a town right along 64, are also coming together to clean up following an EF2 tornado. Take a look at it. It tore through the area, knocking down trees and damaging homes. You can see that. We're told wind speeds got up to about 155 miles per hour. That's like a Category 5 hurricane. The community is now working to recover what they can. All right, we're going to take a look at the severe weather outlook in Grayson, located right here, just inside the Kentucky-West Virginia state line. I travel through Grayson all the time. It's one of the places we stop when we travel back to St. Louis along 64. As you can see, the severe weather outlook today, marginal risk, southern parts of North Carolina, level 2 threat in western parts of Kansas. Winds, maybe a little bit of hail out that way. For tomorrow, there's a severe weather threat with a slight risk of a tornadic development up around North Dakota into Minnesota, but so much of the country actually pretty quiet as we look ahead to Friday. All right, we're going to take another break. After this, Tropical Storm Bertha makes landfall in Louisiana, where it's headed next, and areas under alert this week. let's take a look at the tropics with this outlook. Of course, Bertha has been the big talker here in the United States as we've been looking down in the Gulf. And Bertha really didn't pack a tremendous punch for the Gulf Coast. Yeah, there have been some issues, and folks have been dealing with this. But I think when you talk to most residents down there, they prepare for the worst. And then when stuff comes through and it comes in without as much, as many issues, I think they're very, very blessed, and just count that as a good thing. You take a look, center up here, deep convection, heavier rain down to the south. The winds have been shearing this from the north and pushing a lot of that development, kind of tilting the system south and southwest of the circulation. So here's the circulation right now straddling the Louisiana coast. It is still making progress towards Texas, and this heavy rain is going to be an issue, I think, across South Texas because that area has already seen so much flooding. You see the forecast track at the 8 a.m. advisory. Minimal tropical storm, 45-mile-per-hour winds, gusts to 60, so a little bit of wind with it. Tropical storm warning still up. It is going to become a depression and then a remnant low as it crosses Texas. But remember, there's a lot of rain to the south of this that will track through this region. And I keep going back to hill country and the flooding that they had been dealing with there in central and southern parts of Texas. As we look along the Gulf Coast, a little bit of surge. It's generally been less than 3 feet, and that's the threat all the way over towards the Galveston Bay, Galveston and Houston there, still with those tropical storm warnings. But the center of this pretty much overland. It's not going to intensify because it's got to be out over warmer water. It's just not happening. But it's still going to have the potential to produce a few inches of rain across central and southern parts of Texas. It should be lighter, generally up to maybe, say, a half an inch or so. But they don't need any more rain, period, there. Along the coast, there will be some locally higher amounts. This area shaded in blue, kind of in that 1 to 2 inch range, maybe a little bit more than that, 2 to 3 inches in some areas. Hopefully it kind of rains out and a lot of that heavier stuff stays farther to the south and avoids that central Texas area. We will let you know if things change with that. Certainly something we're watching. Something else, Fausto out here in the eastern Pacific. We'll zoom in. You can see the center of circulation, the eye of this thing, and it was looking pretty good for a little bit. Right there is the center. Right now, just a Category 1 at 80 miles per hour. It is forecast to weaken as it starts to move over some slightly cooler sea surface temperatures. Should get back down to tropical storm status by Saturday morning, and then by the middle of next week, it is forecast to pass just north of Hawaii. Now, I was saying that yesterday, but I will say the track was maybe just a hair farther south than what it was. So folks along Hawaii will want to pay close attention. North shores there are going to see some large swell as this moves by, most likely just to the north. So that's what we're looking at right now. All right, we're going to take a quick look at the new U.S. drought monitor for our area. We are in better shape, Hampton Roads. Abnormal dry, it was the case here for parts of the area. Now that's expanded a little farther west. We've had a lot of rain. And with this morning's rain, I'm thinking next week when we get the next drought monitor, we're going to see areas that are completely out of that, and we're going to be back closer to normal. Still some extreme drought back down to the west and to the southwest. As we look across the region, there's some exceptional drought in a couple of spots, southern North Carolina, north central North Carolina. But again, across the region, we're certainly doing better here at the coast, and some areas starting to see a little bit of relief out there to the west. All right, we're going to take another quick break. We'll come back with a detailed look at Hampton Roads forecast into the Welcome back. Showers for Virginia Beach, parts of Chesapeake and Suffolk. The heavier rain and the most intense storms well to the south. Let's get into the futurecast, showing you that heavier rain down that way. We're actually going to dry out farther to the north. We may even see a little bit of sunshine peeking through later today. That's going to be really, really nice. As we go through the overnight and into tomorrow, we'll still be watching the radar. Chances for some additional wet weather down to the south. The graph model doesn't really do much with it, but there is a chance, and it looks like we could see some more showers passing by on Saturday, especially near the coast and south. So that's the general outlook. Again, some heavier rains down to the south, much lighter now, things winding down farther to the north. As far as that temperature trend over the next 10 days, we're going to be generally below average. 90 is normal. I do think we'll get close to that early next week, but then we're going to see temperatures again cooler after that. Maybe a little wetter than normal looking out over the next couple of weeks. Temperatures generally staying above average through early August. All right, there's a 7-day forecast. You can see we'll be watching the radar. Maybe a break tomorrow, but still down south. Chances for a few showers. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk. So much to talk about each and every day. Be sure and join us next time. Take care.